Welcome to our WellSense Health Plan sponsored Teaching Kitchen class. My name is Paige and I am a dietitian and culinary educator here with Boston Medical Center. And I'm coming to you live from my kitchen, my teaching kitchen. And we are going to be making a fun twist on a taco. We're going to be using some maybe different cooking equipment than you're normally used to. We're going to be using an air fryer. And we are also going to be making fish tacos. Maybe you're familiar with the beef or the chicken, soft or hard shell, but we're going to be making these into a bowl and using fish and an air fryer. We are also going to be making a homemade salsa, a blender salsa as well to pair with this. I will go ahead and put the recipes in the chat. Oh, I do think Deborah beat me to it. Thank you, Deborah. All right, my friend Deborah put them in the chat, so perfect. We are going to start off with our fish taco recipe. This is, like I said, a take on a fish taco, but we're using an air fryer. So if you don't have an air fryer, don't fret. You can still make this recipe, but it'll just be a little different in how you cook it. Has anyone worked with an air fryer before? Feel free to put it in the chat. You can come off mute. I see some folks saying I have. Right. Air fryers have been pretty popular recently. If you're not familiar with an air fryer, I will show you what it is. All right. So here's my air fryer. It actually has a glass see-through basket so you can see the food cooking on the inside. This is a really popular countertop kitchen appliance, and it cooks the food by circulating hot air at high speeds, and that helps it produce that really, crispy fried texture with really not much oil. So I really like using my air fryers as the weather gets warmer because whenever I have to turn my oven on, I think it just heats up my house. And especially when it's getting warm out, I don't want to heat up my house even more. So I really like using air fryers in that respect to kind of keep things more controlled in the kitchen. Now, that doesn't mean if you want to make this recipe and you don't have an air fryer, you can't. You could pan fry. You could also bake the fish. This is going to yield like a nicer, crispier texture as well if we do it in the air fryer, which will be nice if that's like something you like. So we need to start out the recipe by preparing our protein. So we are, like I said, using fish. I have cod here. This is a lean white fish. I find that cod is a really versatile fish. It doesn't really have a strong flavor per se. It grows great for something like this because it is going to just absorb the seasoning and really take on that flavor for the tacos. It's a nice flaky fish. And we want to cut these into bite-sized pieces. So I just have one fillet here, cutting it in half down the middle. Gonna cut it into chunks. If your chunks are really large, cut them in half again. Thinking about if we, might not be able to find cod or you don't like cod, salmon would work just fine. Any really white flaky fish would be great, or fatty fish. Salmon. I think I find that a lot of fish tacos do usually incorporate that flaky white fish. These are going to be a bit leaner as well. Most white fish. So we'll go ahead and add it to our bowl here. And when I have dirty dishes, I like to add them right into the sink. I have one dirty hand and one clean hand, so I'm going to open up my taco seasoning here. I actually make my own taco seasoning. I ran out one time and didn't have time to go buy more. I ended up making my own. So this is pretty similar to what you would buy in a packet. I'm going to give it a good amount there. Then we're going to add some oil. About a tablespoon or two. And then I'm just going to mix this all together. I want this to be nice and coated. Now, because this fish isn't a really fatty fish, that oil is important to help it get that nice crispy coating in the air fryer and help the seasoning stick. So once it feels, or once it looks or feels, once the oil is distributed and the seasonings look well distributed, we're going to add it to the air fryer. I'm actually going to head over to my sink and wash my hands. Just a reminder, whenever you touch raw meat, eggs, poultry, anything that's raw, basically an animal product that needs to be cooked, you always wash your hands afterwards so we don't cross-contaminate. And I put that cutting board and knife that touched the fish in the sink because those are contaminated. Those need to be cleaned. So I'm actually just going to hop over to my sink and wash my hands really quick, and then we will add this to the air fryer. All right, so my air fryer actually likes to be preheated. So I'm going to plug that in and allow it to preheat, and it'll tell me when it's ready to have food put inside. The recipe calls for it to be cooked at 400 degrees. That's just my air fryer's default temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in and start it up. All right, now that that's preheating, let's go ahead and make the sauce that's going to go with it. We're not making the salsa yet, but we're going to make the sauce. So what we need, and the recipe says a mini food processor. If you have a blender, that works. If you don't even have a blender, really, you could just chop everything up really fine and combine it all. But we are going to add some Greek yogurt, some mayonnaise, some lime juice, a little bit of water. Where'd my taco seasoning go? Taco seasoning. And we're going to do some adobo sauce. I like to get the adobo sauce from the whole chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, and I like to use this for other things, fajitas, enchiladas. So this is a small actual can of this, but I'm not going to use this all for this recipe. Okay, so Tusi said, is this a traditional recipe for fish tacos? Never saw it like this. Tusi, I would say that this is not a traditional recipe, but I don't know if there is an actual traditional fish taco recipe. I'm sure culturally there is a, original spin on fish tacos from each culture, but I know this is going to be in a bowl, so it's not going to be like in a tortilla or anything like that. Um, so it is a little spin on it. I see a lot of fish tacos near the coast, a lot of coastal regions, usually like a corner flour tortilla, some type of slaw, fresh things. But this is a different take on it. So we are using that bowl. We're going to go in with some rice as the carb source. So I got about 1/4 of a cup of Greek yogurt. And I have some non-fat plain Greek yogurt. I always like to buy plain Greek yogurt in a big container so I can use it for other things. About 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. All right, we need our limes. All right, I like to give them a little roll to help soften them up. All right, about a tablespoon. And that adobo sauce with the canned chilies is going to add spice. So if you're someone who likes spice, you can add a little bit more. All right, that popped off. Let me grab a spoon. Pop that top off. All right, so I'm going to try to grab, I'm actually just going to grab a chili. Cut that in half. I'm going to add the chili and then try to get some adobo. This is really flavorful. It's great in a lot of sauces. Like I said, enchilada sauce. I'm actually going to just add the whole chili in there. And as I said, that can be used for other things, like I'll save it. You could even freeze it. Or take it out of the can before you freeze it. Add a little bit of water. I need my taco seasoning. Let's see how much here. All right, I need about a half a teaspoon, so I'm going to eyeball it. All right. I'm going to step to the side and blend this. All right, I will be right back. Here's our before. All right, quick blend for after. If you like your sauce thick, this is a nice thick sauce. You could add some water to thin it out. Give it a little taste test. That's really nice. It's got a little bit of heat. Love it. So it's going to go to the side. All right, my air fryer is beeping, telling me to add my food. So I'm going to go ahead and add my fish. When I add it to my air fryer, I'm just going to make sure that they don't all just sit right in a clump in the center. When I have made fish tacos in the past, it's taken me a long time because I have to pan fry all of the fish, and it usually takes a while. So this is a really nice way to kind of speed up that process. All right, so bear with me. We're going to go ahead and keep working through this fish taco recipe. We have some things to dice and slice. We are going to be pairing this with some brown rice. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the microwave so that it can keep cooking while we keep going. All right, so that's going to cook for roughly 6 to 7 minutes. So I'm actually going to adjust the time on this. I'm going to adjust it for about 7 minutes. All right, so now we need to get our slaw ready. So we actually have a pre-diced bag of coleslaw mix that has some cabbage and carrots. I have 2 scallions here. I actually had a recipe last night that had scallions, so this is just what I had left. And we're going to dice up some cilantro and add it all together. This is going to be the topping or the veg for our bowl here. So honestly, whatever other veggies you want to add that would sound good with a fish taco go well here. I know we have a lot of avocado fans in my classes, so avocado would be a great topping. Maybe not necessarily in the slaw salad part, but to add on top of the slaw. Let me grab some cilantro. Some cilantro. Make sure you always wash your herbs. They oftentimes, especially cilantro, can be a little sandy. Growing so close to the ground. So I have one bunch of cilantro. I have about a quarter of it here to go in the slaw. If you're not a cilantro fan and it tastes like soap to you, if you have that gene, you could skip this part. Some people are born with a gene that makes cilantro taste like soap to them. I'm going to give this a good stir. So this recipe doesn't call for this, but I don't know about you, but I need my lettuce or my topping to have some flavor. So I'm actually going to go ahead and add a little bit of oil. We're going to make a vinaigrette. Some oil, and we're going to add some acid. I need to dress this up a little bit. Soften those cabbage fibers. I'm going to go in a little bit of pepper, fresh ground pepper. I usually always do this when I make some form of tacos if I'm using cabbage slaw, which I find goes often with fish tacos. It's not as soft as like a lettuce, so a little pinch of salt. Help those veggies sweat together. And set this to the side. All right, I'll say the one thing I really love about this air fryer is that you can see inside of it while it's cooking. So we'll actually, I'm going to remove this spotlight. I'm going to make me bigger. Right now I'm spotlit. And I will show you all the inside of the air fryer as these are cooking. Now you'll notice as this fish starts to cook, it often turns a brighter white versus translucent. Similar to salmon where it that like almost like fleshy color to it oftentimes gets like a lighter pink color. Also, you can another good telltale sign for when fish is done is that it flakes off really well. So that is the fish so far. Exit that. Let's go back to our workstation. Anybody have any questions so far? Please let me know in the chat if you have any questions. Because now we're just waiting for our tacos to cook. All right, so now we're going to make our salsa. All right, so I have here my bigger blender. For this blender salsa recipe, I really love that it uses a lot of ingredients that are super flavorful. Find that, garlic, cumin, lime juice, cilantro, all of those things really enhance a salsa. But also this reminds me of the restaurant style salsa because it is going to be blended. So I really love that about this recipe. It's a really fun spin. If you've ever made your own salsa at home and you've been chopping and chopping and chopping. So what we need are some tomatoes, red onion, garlic, and jalapenos for the base. Tomatoes. There's my leftover half an onion, jalapeno, cilantro, and garlic. So I'm going to start by peeling this. Taking off that fleshy outer layer. This is a great recipe to pair with your fish tacos. I always love a little salsa on my fish tacos. And do not forget that this is a source of vitamins and minerals. This is your veggie side. We do have that really nice coleslaw mix as our veg source for our meal here, but we're also getting some more veggies from this salsa. All right, so peeling, I have about 3 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna grab a paring knife and we're gonna kind of just quarter these. All right, so we're gonna quarter them. We're gonna cut them into fourths. We're gonna cut out that middle center there that's got the core. It's just got the little stem. We're just gonna add them right to the blender. Now I have a bigger blender here, so it is going to be a little bit more high powered. If you have a smaller blender, you might want to cut your tomatoes if they're larger into smaller chunks to help it blend. And so you can fit more in your blender as well. Well, we have a great question. So would you use more oil if you were pan frying the fish? That's a great question, Johnny. So when I have done fish tacos, depending on what fish I use and depending what pan I use, sometimes I do, I coat it in the um, seasoning like I did, and I do more oil, but also sometimes I add a little flour to create a protective coating. If you are not using a nonstick pan, fish really likes to stick, so you might need to add more oil. If you have a nonstick pan, you could probably get away with a little bit, just a little bit more oil. I definitely would add more oil to coat the pan to pan fry because these are going to be small little bites, so they won't cook for very long, but they could start to fall apart. Flaky fish is really delicate once it's cooking. All right, you can even see here as I start to shake, some of it's coming off here. It's pretty well cooked. I'm gonna pop it back in here. I do believe it's all done. Yes. Okay, so that's all done. So we are going to now add I have a half of a red onion here. This was left over from something else. So I'm gonna just kind of cut it up again. And that just helps when it blends that it, can chop things up appropriately. Here's my 3 garlic cloves. Now my jalapeno. If you like spice, you can add the whole thing. I'm actually just going to add that top half. And be very careful to put that right there. And I'm actually going to wash my hands so I don't get any of that hot oil and touch anything. All right, so we have all of our big ingredients in there. We also need to add some lime juice. We're going to add some salt, a little bit of sugar. That's going to be the secret ingredient here. It's just going to help kind of neutralize all the acid and the heat. So we're going in with about 1 teaspoon, just a smidge of table sugar. All right, and then we need our salt. Where did my salt pot go? There's my salt. Salt. And you can always add more you can't take away. Some fresh cracked pepper. We cannot forget our cilantro. We're actually going to add some cumin. Cumin is a really nice spice. It's really smoky, really common in these Mexican-inspired dishes. All right, I'm going to grab a fork to squeeze this so I can get all the juice. So if you don't have a juicer, you can use your hands or you can do the fork method where you take the fork, push it in as far as you can, and you twist the fork as you squeeze, being mindful that that juice will really squirt out. Ooh, okay, so Johnny says, could you use shredded carrots instead of sugar? I think you could, Johnny. You definitely could. Now, the sugar is not something that's necessary for this recipe. Just a little bit to help neutralize it. So absolutely. You could even do a little tablespoon of honey, maple syrup, carrots, something that's got that natural sweetness to help cut that acid. Absolutely. Okay, so now we're actually going to blend this. I can bring my blender over now since this is all done. And this will stay good in the fridge for a few days. So if you're having this to go with your fish tacos tonight, you can have this as a snack for the rest of the week. All right. Here's our base. All right, so there we go. Okay, so we have this. And now we're going to add in a can of crushed San Marzano tomatoes, and some green chilies. So I have some diced green chilies here. And I am using a blender, not a food processor. So this is going to be a little bit more smooth, which is okay with me. Food processors might keep it a little bit more intact. They're better for, creating salsas and things of that nature. This is meant for like really blending things fine. San Marzano tomatoes have a natural little sweetness to them. This time of year, tomatoes are not in season. So the fresh tomatoes that I used are building a base, but they're not super flavorful because they're not in season. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just mix with a spoon. And you can even see that color instantly turn darker. Now, this is a lot of salsa. This is the time where you can do a little taste test with chips. See if it needs more salt. I really like when making salsa, I roast my veggies first. So that's something you could do too to really increase the complexity of the flavors. Mm. It's really good. It definitely needs more salt. Now, granted, this is a lot of serving, so don't be afraid to give it about a teaspoon. Okay, gonna test it again, see how we're doing. Much better. Okay, so here's my salsa bowl to go with my dinner. Right, and this is gonna go into a large container. You can definitely cut this recipe in half if that looked like way too much salsa. I think it would be perfect for a picnic. We have Memorial Day coming up. Here's our salsa. Mm. That's getting me excited for warm weather. Right, so now we have to build our beautiful taco dish. So let's get our slaw. We have our air fried fish. We have our sauce in here. Now I need to grab my rice. I have made fish tacos a few times. My husband growing up had a lot of fish tacos. That was one of his mom's favorite things to make. So I try to replicate that a lot at home. And I will say making those fish tacos pan frying is significantly more labor intensive and stressful than this experience that I've just had. Throwing in the air fryer really has changed the game. These chips are so delicious with this salsa. We are using brown rice as the base here, but you could really truly kind of make it into more of a salad and use your tortilla chips as a scooper. Let's go in with our microwave rice here. And you can use rice that you have and you make yourself. It does not have to be microwavable. But sometimes getting food on the table is quite a labor-intensive process. So whatever you do to make your life easier. Okay, there's my side of rice. Let's get my serving of fish. This is looking really great. This is going to serve 2 to 3 people. So I'll get just a little bit of fish there. Or you can totally buy the tortilla that you prefer, flour, corn, and do it that way. Really loading up on my slaw there. And then I'm going to drizzle All right, so here is my bowl so far. Now, we got to add some salsa, some fresh salsa. Just drizzle that as well. All right, there you have it. Fish taco in a bowl. We kind of, made dinner here in less than 30 minutes, and we even made maybe an appetizer. So what do you think so far? Pretty cool. I think if we did some purple cabbage in here, this would look really pretty. So now we need to do our taste test. We'll do a taste test on the recording, and then I will end the recording in case anybody wants to ask questions off the camera. Just like a fish taco. I even think eating it with a tortilla chip would be really nice because fish tacos can be hard to eat with all the stuff falling out of them if you've ever had them before. So doing it this way could work. Maybe less rice and just the fish with the slaw. Really good. This will now be my go-to method for making fish tacos. All right, I just want to thank WellSense for sponsoring today's class, and I'm going to end the recording.